But I'll tell you what, big news out of Cincinnati. If we can bring Mo Egger in, the Bengals have agreed to 4-year extensions with receivers Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, assuring that Joe Burrow will have his top 2 targets with him for some time. Mo, I know you were lined up since last week, I think, to come on today's show. The timing could not be better. Your thoughts on this news, which broke Sunday?
I think the word you're looking for is serendipitous, right?
Bingo! Yes. Yep.
Okay, serendipitous.
Great movie, great term. Mm-hmm.
By the way, really quick, and then we'll talk about the Bengals and T. Higgins. Is Canada being taxed for me appearing on this show?
Spicy.
Unlikely. It depends on the worth of the interview and the appearance. It depends on the worth, Mo. You'll depend that.
Yeah, well, best of luck to me. This today we have. This is the end of a long, almost 3-year road that the Bengals have taken to get this done, and so there's lots of different ways of looking at what they have chosen to do here with T. Higgins. I guess the 2 things that stand out to me more than anything, number one would be the Bengals chose to not go to war with Joe Burrow. Joe made it abundantly clear. There was no ambiguity. He wanted T. Higgins to be a Bengal long-term, and he wanted to see the team get a deal done with Jamar Chase. He did not leave any wiggle room. I want T, I want Jamar. Anything that wasn't those 2 things happening at the same time was going to mean the Bengals went to war with Joe Burrow and by extension went to war with their fan base. And if there's one thing the Bengals have shown an inclination to do over the last so many decades, is they'll go to war with you. They'll dig their heels in, and you're not moving them. Here they moved. The other thing they did is, I think from a salary cap dork perspective, they gave a lot of guaranteed money beyond the first year to both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, which is something they historically have not done. And so I think to a degree, you're seeing the Bengals evolve here a little bit. You're seeing them show a willingness to do some things that they haven't been capable or willing to do. And, now, once we get done, once the confetti clears and once everybody gets done being excited about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins spending the next 3 years together beyond 2025 in Cincinnati with each other, the onus really falls on Duke Tobin, who is the team's de facto general manager, to get this roster fixed in a way that the Bengals can take advantage of having Joe and Jamar and T together for the foreseeable future.
Well, and that's why we wanted to get you on, because you can take us inside what went down. We see all the figures. We don't know the history. But from what I do know, offense wasn't the problem last year. He obviously wanted to keep those guys in black and orange, but offense was not the problem. Is that being addressed?
Frankly, it hasn't been yet. Not that they have been totally absent from the free agency process, but I think if you were watching last week, you would assume the Bengals had a really good offensive line last year and a really good defense, and neither were the case. And, they did go get a defensive tackle by the name of TJ Slayton from the Green Bay Packers and a linebacker by the name of Oren Burks from the Philadelphia Eagles. And those are pieces that I think are worth being excited about, but they're not difference makers. They haven't found an edge rusher. They haven't upgraded their pass rush. They haven't found any depth in the secondary, and they haven't yet found somebody to play on the interior of that offensive line. And so, the reason why the Bengals have been on the outside looking into the playoffs over the last 2 years, certainly the biggest reason why they were on the outside looking in of the playoffs last year, was they haven't drafted well on defense. And this team's MO, I think, has been pretty obvious for a while. They want to pay offense, and they have paid offense. They've paid Joe Burrow. They're going to pay now Jamar Chase. They're going to pay now T. Higgins. They've spent heavily in recent years in free agency on the offensive line. It's pay offense, draft defense. Well, the pay offense part has worked. The draft defense part, not so much. This team is where it is, or is where it has been, because of their failures in the draft when it comes to acquiring defensive players. Now, they obviously have a new defensive coordinator this year. I think much of their inactivity on defense and free agency would suggest that they feel like a different defensive coordinator can achieve different results with largely the same group of players. But they need some guys who can step in and play immediately that come their way via the draft in April. In the absence of that, this is probably not going to work to the extent that Bengals fans hope.
You may or may not believe this. Wayne in Victoria, BC writes in. He says, well, I love me some Mo Egger.
Oh,
LOL.
wow.
Did you know you have a huge fan in Victoria, British Columbia? Do you even know where that is?
I know where it is. I don't have huge fans here. So why would I know that I have a huge fan in British Columbia?
Okay. Nelson in Regina, Saskatchewan writes in. He says, Canada being
I love
taxed
Regina.
depends on... Canada being taxed depends... Oh, yeah, we never heard that one before. Canada being taxed depends on the day, really. Can you please give me your view on what's going on there, by the way, the anthems being booed at the hockey games and all the rest? Because you know that I'm in Florida. My friends here are saying, can you tell the Canadians that we're on their side? We don't like him either. What is your... I'm not going to ask your political leanings, but what are you seeing from where you and I stay out of politics? We're not dumb.
Yeah.
So what's your view on all this?
This all seems unnecessary. From my point of view, I feel like, and I would have said this had the election gone the other way. Whoever took office on January the 20th was going to have larger issues on their hands than starting a trade war with Canada. I don't see the point behind it. I don't see the reason for antagonism. I don't understand the divisions it has caused. I find the whole 51st state stuff to be very unserious. I don't know why. I don't know why we're doing this. I'm all for being competitive from a trade perspective in the global market. Like I'm there. I'm on board with that. But this seems to me, Rod, to be unnecessarily antagonistic, and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit.
I don't like it either. And that's the one thing is my friends here are like, you hate America. It's one guy. We didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So,
but that was the thing. Like, I wasn't sure if I was even allowed to be on your show anymore. I had heard, and I'm glad that we have sort of dispelled this. I thought that as a byproduct of this whole conflict between the United States and Canada, I wasn't allowed to come on anymore. So I'm glad I'm here.
Tony in Cochrane, Alberta writes in and he says, no tax, Mo, but you get 25% less words to say.
Oh, so well, that does everybody. If everybody wins there, everybody wins there.
Yeah. Here's the one thing. I like to get along with everybody. It's easier.
Me too.
Remember, you came out at me with a machete on my comments on the Bengals uniforms. That's how this all started.
And they haven't had a losing season since. They
I didn't say I was right. I'm just saying this is where it all started. I don't like to fight. Do you look up the road at the Browns and laugh, or do you feel like the Bengals shouldn't be laughing at anybody?
Well, yeah, I laugh at the Browns because everybody in Cincinnati laughs at the misfortune of Cleveland sports teams, and I don't know how you don't. I mean, I laugh at the Browns and I laugh at Myles Garrett, who's obviously a terrific player, but for a month or so, all we heard was, well, Myles Garrett wants to win. That's all he cares about is winning. He wants to win. That's why he's forcing his way out, and then he gets a check. I think to a degree it's unfortunate for them because I think they have a good coach in Kevin Stefanski. And it's one thing for your coach to succeed or fail based on his decisions. What I didn't like from that perspective was it felt like the coach had his knees cut out from underneath him last year, because there's no way in hell, in my opinion, that Kevin Stefanski would have stuck with Deshaun Watson to the extent that the Browns stuck with Deshaun Watson. It felt like that decision was made by people well above Kevin Stefanski. And to me, if you have a coach of that caliber, let him coach, let him make those decisions. But you get in life what you earn, and the Browns have earned derision, and they have earned all the slings and arrows that are coming their way, because everybody saw this coming with respect to Deshaun Watson. Everybody saw this. I can't recall anybody who thought, you know what, this is a good deal for the Browns. This makes sense. It didn't. And everybody saw it coming. They still did it. So you get what you deserve. They're not a victim of bad luck. They're not a victim of, God, you know what? Everybody thought this was going to work and it didn't. Everybody said, this is a bad move for the Cleveland Browns. It's turned out to be one. When that's the case, I have a hard time feeling sorry for you.
Well, I'll tell you what does it say about the Steelers, though, if we stay in that division, that it's got a different quarterback every year, and they're still in the playoffs. Not a contender necessarily, but talk about culture and coaching. That's got to be what it is there. Culture and coach. They let Mike Tomlin do his thing.
Sure. Yes. The Steelers are the ultimate high floor, low ceiling franchise. You know, even if you looked at them last year, you respected what they did. You respected the fact that for a while they looked like they were going to win the AFC North. You respect them on a week-to-week basis because playing them anecdotally is really hard. But I don't think anybody took them serious as championship contenders. I don't think anybody really put them in the conversation seriously as a team that could win the AFC. I don't think you held the Steelers in the same regard that you do the Ravens, the Bills, or the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't think that's changing anytime soon. Look, Mike Tomlin's a marvelous coach. He is going to be in Canton one day. There is a lot to be said about his coaching bona fides. But it was interesting to me that if you watch them in the postseason this year, the outcome wasn't that surprising. They just got worked, right? They just got worked by the Baltimore Ravens, who just lined up and beat them. And if you look at their recent postseason history, there have been a lot of games like that where they have just gotten physically beaten up. They've often looked unprepared. Many of those games have been lopsided. And so I think with the Steelers every year, and we're going to do it this year regardless of who their quarterback is, we're going to look at them as a team that can get to 9 wins or 10 wins. Certainly on a week-to-week basis is going to be tough to prepare for and tough to play. I don't think when the season begins, and I certainly don't think when the season ends, regardless of whether or not they're in the playoffs, I don't think we're going to be talking about them as a legitimate title contender.
Okay, Mo, well said. Can you just give me a Reds preview? Not sure if you know, but I'm a bit of a baseball guy now. I broadcast in Canada and here in Florida. So now I'm following it more than I ever have. Well, since I was a kid anyways. Thoughts on the Reds?
Well, I think the starting pitching has a chance to be really, really good, which it was last year, and they kind of wasted it. I think if you're looking for a reason for optimism, you start with Hunter Green and the starting staff, which there's a lot of upside there. Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Andrew Abbott, young guys. But we're also talking about guys who haven't yet got through a full big league season without any sort of injury interruption. They did acquire some depth this offseason. Brady Singer from the Royals. Nick Martinez will start this year in the starting rotation. That group, I think, has a chance to be really, really good. I think if you're looking for a reason to be concerned, I'm not sure how much this team is really going to hit. I don't think their outfield's going to be that productive. I wonder about the catcher, Tyler Stevenson, who's dealing with an oblique. He is one of their better offensive performers. And so is this team going to hit? But I think the biggest question is, how does this team do in the margins? Last year, they were awful in one-run games. Does that change this year? Do they go from awful to really good in one-run games with a different manager in Terry Francona? If the answer is yes, this team's got a chance. Do they clean up their defensive issues from last year? If the answer is yes, well, this team's margin for error expands. And does Terry Francona help this team clean up some of the stuff we saw last year that seemingly never got corrected? Errors on the base pass, being a little too aggressive at times, guys getting picked off, that sort of thing. If the answer is yes there, then the margin for error expands. But I think as a general rule, if you look at the other teams in the National League Central, there are a lot of them that would like to have the Reds starting staff. If you look at the teams in the National League Central, there are a lot of them that I would expect to hit more than I expect the Reds to hit this year. Which one of those things is wrong? Are they better offensively than I expect? If so, this team will be pretty good. Or are they not as good on the mound as I expect? If so, this team's going to be pretty bad. I certainly am hopeful for the former.
Mo, you are in mid-season form. Thank you for the time. And as you know, you are very big in Canada.
Well, I am the one American who still is, so that's nice.
How about that?
You got it. Thank you, Mo. The great Mo Egger.
See you guys.
ESPN 1530, Cincinnati.